My dad would be proud to see everybody here. Um, this is the second of 4 services we're going to have for my dad. The third one will be in November in Ogden, Utah, and the fourth one will be in December in Las Banas, California, where my dad worked a lot throughout his life and where his vacation home was. And if you guys want any other dates, just get in contact with me, and I'll make sure you guys get invitations to those. My father was born May 15, 1958 in the town of Ogden, Utah, to his mother, Grace Vera Noriega, and his sister, Cynthia Colazo. My father grew up around all his loving uncles and aunts in Ogden. Eventually coming to California on a bus, he was enrolled at Myron D. Witter School in Raleigh, California, where he would meet a lot of his great friends to this day. Gentlemen like Paul Cameron and Steve Davis, also gentlemen like Mr. McNaughton and Mr. McGuffin at Myron D. Witter. Really had an impact on my father. Sorry. I promised I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't cry. Because my dad's in a better place, that's why I don't want to cry. My father grew up in poverty. He couldn't even afford gloves to go to school. So they cut up his socks with 5 holes so he could stick his fingers through. He said that type of stuff motivated him to become what he became. And from the way he would put on, the way he would put it, he was the first black kid ever at Myron D. Witter School. He would always tell me stories about Mr. McGuffin and playing the teacher versus student games, kickball and basketball, and even softball. As a kid, I was always told the great stories of Mr. McNaughton and his son with the golden arm. My father eventually ran away from home when he was 13 years old and went to the city of Las Banas, California, where his life would change forever. He was introduced to melons. He would tell me stories of how when he first got there, he would steal from the local dairyman, and until he could make up his first check, he said he was going to pay the owner back. One day, when he went back to pay the owner for the stolen lunch meat and cheese, the owner looked him in the eyes and he said, "Kid, you didn't think I knew what you were doing the whole time?" And my dad said, "How'd you know?" He goes, the store owner told him, "Well, who buys bread and mayonnaise and doesn't buy cheese and meat for the inside?" One of his first jobs was sweeping the floor at the Greyhound bus station where he arrived in Las Banas. The reason he did that so he could earn enough money to get a bus trip back to Mendota so he could get on to a job at Pappas. Where there he learned how to pack melons. He eventually worked at some of the most illustrious jobs in the state of California. Packing houses such as Pappas, Nam, Azadarian, Lindemann, The Players, Fisher, Sahara, and Marnie Farms. The only thing my dad ever told me that he ever regretted in his life was not going to college and playing football. That and not going to Hollywood because he thought he could be an actor. In the summer times, he couldn't really get down to Brawley to play with his high school football team, so he was packing melons. When he'd come back, he would kick field goals because he couldn't really get into starting or anything like that. He was always a backup because he never put in the time because he's always up north packing melons. His sophomore year, he kicked the game-winning field goal across the street right here in the Bell game. That's something he always wanted me to mention, especially in his celebration of life. As he learned more and more about melons and working in sheds, came a summer of strikes in which he was thrown in jail in Las Banas, California. He chained himself to a shed and a cooler. They were striking. My whole family actually struck, and they all got thrown in jail. And I think it was in '79 was the year that he got put in jail in Las Banas, California for striking, for better wages for the employees. My father, along with some of the greatest men in this industry, designed melon machines such as Louis Carrel, Louis Jr., Mr. Gargiulo. Through the 90s, I lived with my father, if not on the road picking melons, but at different family members' houses. I was raised by a village. If you don't believe me, you can ask some of the people here. I was blessed with some good neighbors like Maria Gonzalez. Joel helped a lot with me. My aunt Thea, Cynthia Colazo in the back, she took care of me a lot. So did my Aunt Cammy, my Aunt Robin, and my Uncle Tommy. I was blessed with some great uncles and aunts. As I said before, not only did my dad pack in the sheds, but he packed in the fields. He packed for some of the best companies on the face of the earth, some that are still around today. Dole, Chiquita, Del Monte, Appio, Freitas Brothers, Bruce Church, Bennett Body Farms, Tonia Body Farms, Perez Packing, Gold Rush, Pappas, just to name a few. I would ask him sometimes how many boxes of crates of produce has his hands and his companies packed. He would say near 500 million. He was proud to always say that he went from the wood crate to the box carton. And that's what was his spiel when he'd go in and get jobs. He was one of the only guys still around that went from the wood crate to the box. We traveled like a circus city to city for years and years with army workers and equipment, packing around 10 million boxes annually and 4 million pounds of vegetables annually. With the money he made packing with his first company, Ralph Closet Packing, eventually he started his own farming company, Oso Farms, where he farmed over 3,000 acres annually in Nyland, Calapat, Westmoreland, and Brawley, growing commodities such as corn, cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon, broccoli, romaine, cabbage, asparagus, wheat, Sudan, and hay. Having his own labels, Raphael, Ralphie, Black Bear, Oso, and Honey Gold. My dad really did feed the nation. For about 20 and 30 years there, if you ate cantaloupes during the summer, there was a 9 out of 10. There was a 90% chance the melons you were eating came from my dad's hands. His or his workers' hands. Many battles with the UFW, Cesar Chavez's son, along with the California water shortage in the Central Valley, and diabetes and kidney illness, that putting up with me put a hamper on my dad's health. Some of his hobbies included water skiing, snow skiing, jazz and garlic festivals, 4-H auctions, donating to the Salvation Army and local schools. The 3 months coming up, October, he'd donate pumpkins to the local schools for carnivals, turkeys and hams in November to Salvation Army and kids in need that couldn't afford turkeys and hams. December, he did trees and hams and turkeys again, always giving to Catholic and Christian church charities. His love for football was second to none. Any Sunday you could catch Big Ralph at any NFL stadium. He was close to him in proximity. There isn't much my father didn't do in his life. 7 Super Bowls attended, first African-American quarterback he watched win a Super Bowl, John Elway's first Super Bowl. Eli upset Tom Brady's undefeated streak in Arizona. Ray Lewis's last game, numerous Giants World Series games, NBA championships at the Forum, watching Wilt Chamberlain, watching the Lakers win it all. Numerous concerts, Rolling Stones, Janet Jackson, Kiss, Eagles, David Brubeck, Shorty Trombone, U2, even Justin Bieber. My dad, he went to Justin Bieber concert, believe it or not. Some of his finest accomplishments, and he would tell you to this day, across the street over there, he helped Steve Davis and a couple of his friends get Blake Davis's name on the skate park, and he worked hard on that. He went in front of the city council, and he was really proud about that. He loved Blake. Entrepreneur of the Year from 2004 to 2007 in California. He was introduced at a luncheon with the President of the United States. Of course, he didn't attend because he was packing. Hispanic of the Year in Imperial County in 2016. And his most important was his gift of life. He was a donor at the end of his life. Even in death, he gave. He gave his liver, his kidneys went to research, and his blood was donated also because he was, a special type. I think it's O positive or something like that.
Negative.
Out of all those accomplishments and achievements, the most important thing my father ever did was take the Lord Jesus into his heart and finally humble himself his last year and a half of life. All my life, my father chased money, and he'd be the first one to tell you that because of the way he was raised. He thought that money was everything, and he wanted to give everything he could give because he didn't have. He'd give the shirt off his back. We spent a lot of time together the last year and a half. I'd sit in with dialysis, and we'd talk about the grandkids, something he really loved. Something he never got to do when he was working all the time was spend time with family, and we really got to do that the last year and a half. I watched God start to bless us and work in our lives. We started growing melons again, and we put in 40 acres. We also began picking up accounts for work with some of the biggest companies in the state of California. We listened to church and watched church throughout the pandemic frequently because we couldn't attend. I believe in my heart God called my father home to get him away from the pain he was enduring. God had finally saved my father, and it was his time. I'm a firm believer in God's plan, and my father is in a better place. If there are 3 things my father and I would like you to take from all of this, it'd be to keep your faith, to teach the next generation. Strong youth is a strong future. Cherish the moments you have with the loved ones you have left on this earth. Life is too short. I'd like to thank my mother. I'd like to thank my girlfriend, Carla. Alejandro, I don't think he's here, but he sat with my dad a lot throughout the last couple of days. He was alive at dialysis because I coached football at Southwest High School. You want to know who the first person that gave me the heck with me about that was my own father. When I went home and I told him, Dad, I'm going to coach for the Southwest Eagles. The Eagles? Are you kidding me? Because he's a wildcat. You cut him open, it's blue and gold. I'd also like to thank Pacific Farms, Frank Avila, Sanchez Bees, Joel Gonzalez, Desert RV, the Gonzalez family, the Davis family, the Cameron family, and everybody that's here that's attended and that's given words of wisdom to me, beautiful words, giving me hugs. Norma, the hug you gave me at the football game the other day, you don't even know what it did for me. I was crying during the national anthem, and when you gave me the hug, it meant the world to me. And just everybody that's here, Shorty, Magdalena, my dad always gave me good stories about you. Cindy, everything you've done for my family, you took care of me when I was growing up a lot. Everybody that's helped, Anthony for cooking. My dad taught you to do that tri-tip. I love you, Anthony. Tony, everybody that's here, Louie, Tommy, all the help you did with my dad in Nyland, helping us, everything. My dad, he's in a better place, and his knowledge is not going to go away. We started the Ralph Collazo Foundation, where we're going to be giving away scholarships every year. We're going to be attending the 4-H auction every year at the Imperial County Fair, also in Los Banos, to try to give back to not only the kids that make auction, but my dad's deal was he would go in the barn, because there's kids that don't make auction, and they don't make weight. And he'd go in there, and he'd tell them, look, I'm going to pay you under the table. You're not going to report it to the fair. You send me the invoice, I'll pay you, so you get the money to start up next year and pay your loan. So you don't lose out, because every kid gets a loan to start the 4-H. So my dad always looked for the kids in the barn, not just the kids that made auction and got the grade 1 and pedigree and everything like that. We're going to attend that and have a local youth football camp. So his name will live on, and like I said, I really appreciate all of you guys coming from the bottom of my heart, and I love each and every one of you guys. And if anybody would like to get up and speak, you guys can get up, and we'll take turns, one after another. I know, Joseph, you'd like to say something? If you'd like to say something, you can go first, and then after that, anyone wants to take turns, you guys are more than welcome. God bless you, and stay safe.
My name is Joseph Cooler. I'm Ralph Jr.'s younger brother, Stephanie's youngest son. I just had a few words to say about Big Ralph. So, as you're all aware, we recently lost someone who played a critical role in most of, if not all of our lives, Ralph Sr., otherwise known as Big Ralph, or commonly to me, Big Dad, who was severely ill for the last several years. It has come to my understanding that some of these complications may have been things Ralph was dealing with even prior to us being aware of just how sick he was. As a young boy, there were several occasions where he simply told me as much during many of our deeper conversations. I think I was just a little too young and naive to fully understand what he meant during those times. Ralph Sr. was not only a great man, but he was also a great friend, mentor, advocate, and in many instances, the greatest contributor to one's success. He made things possible for people through his selfless acts each day of the time that I knew him. There was never a time when you could not go up to Ralph and ask him for help or a favor. The countless contributions that he made to the people around him are immeasurable in number and most importantly, meaning. The respect that we all here have for him today is something that will last a lifetime and hopefully longer than that, as you not only tell your children and grandchildren about Ralph Sr., but you teach them to strive to be as selfless and loving as he was one day. Ralph's demeanor, his attitude, his hard work ethic, and his drive to become and have better than what he was and had growing up is what allowed him to turn his life into something wonderful. This alone, to me, is what played a large part in Ralph not being very open about his health complications in its earlier stages. Ralph Sr. was a proud man, proud of himself, proud of his accomplishments, but better yet, proud of his ability to be able to give back to the ones around him and his community. Throughout the time that I spent with Ralph during my life, I came to understand this about him. I know today that if he were here and well, that he would not want any one of us to mourn him. He would want us to celebrate him, to remember him for what he gave to each of us, more than material things, more than money. He would want us to be thankful for the time that we were able to spend with him and the things we were able to learn from him. And he would want us to apply that to our own lives and our children's lives so that we may all strive to not only be successful in life, but be successful in life for the others around us. Ralph Sr. lived a great life, one with excitement and interaction. He loved to travel, meet new people, watch sports, listen to music, spend time with his family, crack jokes, take care of his pride and joy, Achilles. And one of his biggest passions in life was food. Ralph loved to eat. He loved to feed people and watch them enjoy the meals that he would provide. A lot of this had to do with the fact that he couldn't eat as abundantly as most others when he was a kid. Given this, he always made it a point to make sure each meal was enjoyed, but most importantly that each meal, regardless of it being your plate or his, was completely finished before leaving the table. He also loved to work, and from the time he was 12 years old, he did just that. Traveling all the way down to the Imperial Valley from Ogden, Utah, and up to Los Baños on Greyhound buses was no easy feat for someone his age. His love for agriculture, the packing sheds and fields, melons, and making a name for himself propelled him into an industry that reciprocated that love back towards him several times over. And it was well deserved, as there are not many people who I've seen work as hard as Ralph throughout my life. My big dad and I were not in relation by a single drop of our own blood, but he treated me every single day of my life as I was his own son. He taught me things that I will remember for the remainder of my life. He was, throughout all that time, my greatest friend. And that alone speaks about the type of man that Ralph was. I just hope that I did enough during our time together to be able to be considered one of his greatest friends as well. I love him, and I will miss him and his crazy sense of humor. But I will celebrate him and remember all of the good times that we spent together throughout both of our lives. So please, eat, enjoy your food, and celebrate Ralph Sr. because this is what I believe he would have wanted most. Thank you.